Here we go. So, prop-wise tonight, for a yin practice, if you have a longer type of pillow or something, I've got an actual bolster, but that's not something, I mean, I didn't even have one until very recently. I've got a blanket that I'm just draping over it just for extra comfort here in the first opening place. And then I've got a couple of blocks. So I would recommend at the very least, if you have a blanket or towel, go ahead and grab that. We'll definitely be using that early on in the practice. So for our opening shape, if you take your longer pillow or even a rolled towel would do, and place it not the long way how I have it here, and then kind of take your elbows back over it so it falls just beneath your shoulder blades, about mid-back. And then the block will support your head, and I would suggest either the second or maybe the highest setting here. See what feels good. And then let those elbows, biceps come to, I guess we would call this the back of the pillow here. So not over like this. You get that really nice big opening here in the shoulders and chest. You just allow yourself to start to settle in here. Your legs can do whatever is comfortable. You might be a bit gentler on the low back to keep the knees bent, to take them wide, and then allow the knees to fall in. That can feel good. Any little adjustments here after you take a few breaths, just to get maybe 10% more comfortable where you are. You might not even require movement, but just a softening your jaw, your brow. You guys see Anita's name. Anita, welcome. Thanks for joining us. As a continuation from last night's practice, Gita was with me. Anita, Sarah, this will be the first time hearing about this for you. We're traveling through the yamas of yoga. And the yamas are the first limb of our 8-limbed path of yoga, according to Patanjali. It's an ancient yoga text that's widely sets the course for the practice of yoga for a lot of practitioners in modern yoga. It's been around for thousands of years. And it's still just as relevant today as it was 5,000 years ago. So that's one of the beautiful things about this path. So the first limb, or yamas, are moral restraints. You might think, okay, what's a moral restraint? And it sounds maybe a little restrictive or prohibitive, and kind of is by nature, but we can think of it as a guideline of how we live our lives, how we interact with other beings, how we treat other beings, how we treat ourselves. And we're up to the fourth yama. There's 5 total. Our fourth yama is Bramacharya. And this loosely translates to moderation. Living in moderation. Living in balance. So there's a lot of ways that we can practice this, a lot of ways we can interpret this. Where we dedicate our energy on a daily basis, on our yoga mat, off the yoga mat, the foods we eat, the activities that we do. Noticing when we have too much of something, too little of something. Finding the balance. It's all about balance. So our yin yoga practice we're embarking upon tonight. Yin is a really crucial for a yogi in Bramacharya. I had many years when I practiced a lot of power yoga, a lot of really strenuous yoga, and no yin. I don't even know if I knew what yin was back then. So yin in our practice of Bramacharya, whether we're countering a strenuous yoga practice or balancing sitting at a desk all day, balancing a lot of standing, walking, running, other activities we might find ourselves in. And this is just from a physical perspective. Such a wonderful practice. Just the act of getting still is a good balance to our daily lives and how busy we are. The quiet, the stillness of yin. We'll take a handful more breaths here in this opening posture. Setting an intention perhaps to notice in each shape that we take where your spot is, where that balance point lies. Sometimes we force past it. Often we force past it. Kind of that nature of our society to give more, do more, always. Sometimes we hold back as well. We know that something might be uncomfortable. We hang out just before that point of sensation. We might let something go that we otherwise breathe through. So notice where you can find that moderation. That spot that's just for you. And we'll take another deep breath in through the nose. And take a full exhale out through your mouth. And we'll start to add some movement to the body. If you are on some props, just move slowly and eventually, or right away, we'll get them out of the way. Just let them come off to the side. We'll use them again. And let's lie back down on the mat for a few moments here. Just feel that difference of being on a prop and then being grounded here. Nothing between you and the mat. And rock side to side with the knees hugged in. Maybe take a full body stretch or some combination of those two. You might let your head roll side to side here. And then hanging on behind your knees, we'll take a couple rocks forward and back. Alternatively, you could roll onto your side and press up for a little slower approach to coming up to seated. And we'll find an easy seat for you, so let it feel comfy. If you want to sit up on the edge of something, you may. Crisscross legs, if half lotus is in your wheelhouse, you can do that. Anywhere you can sit up nice and tall, growing through the crown of the spine, or crown of your head. And let's take the shoulders up and back a couple times, just nice and easy. And then let's allow the fingertips to come down to the mat beside you. And take your right ear, drop it down toward your right shoulder. And you might walk the left fingertips out a bit just to really lengthen through left side of the neck, trapezius muscle. If you want, you can take your right hand and apply a little bit of gentle pressure, not cranking on the head, but just adding a little weight with the hand. Good, let's release that here and take the other side. So left ear, tips toward the left shoulder. Let that right shoulder relax, and maybe those fingers just do a little creepy crawly out. One more breath here. And release back to your center. You can take your hands and rest them on your thighs. Without twisting the torso, let's take the chin over toward your right shoulder and gaze over behind you to the right. Notice if your legs are tensing up here. Try to soften those guys. And we'll come back to center. This would be a good time. Let's switch the cross of our legs. And then we'll take it chin to left shoulder. Isolating this in the neck. you release this to center, shake anything out. And then final item for the neck, we'll just take some circles here. They can be half circles, sticking with the bottom half, or you might take it all the way around. Feel free to pause anywhere that feels extra tight or a little crunchy. I like to switch sides every rotation just so I don't lose track. So just make sure you're going both ways. And stick up one more times. Nice and slow. Finishing up where you're at. I'm going to rotate back toward the front of my mat. And once you're ready, when you're done with your neck, we'll grab our blanket or towel and take it give it a little bit of thickness, but not too much bulk. So typical way a yoga blanket is folded, just an extra fold here. And then we're going to set up for Janu Sirsasana. It's a single-legged forward fold, sometimes called forehead to knee pose. And what we're going to do with the blanket is place it behind the knee. So this way our knee cannot lock out. It's nice and supported. The left heel is into the hip crease. And then take your belly button and point it toward your right toes. Give your right toes some flexion. So almost like your foot is against the wall. Sitting up nice and tall. And if you like to reach up before you fold forward, you can do that. Or just take a breath and then walk it forward. Keep your navel facing your leg. So the other nice thing about this blanket is once you get your hands next to your ankle, your heel, doesn't matter how far forward, but your elbows can soften and rest on this blanket. Keep that flex in your foot for just a few breaths more. Keep your chin drawing toward your toes as well. Or flatter through the back, chest slightly lifted. Take another breath, feel the length of your spine. And on the exhale, let yourself round forward, soften, let that flex go. Let your forehead come with the leg rounding, belly button still revolving toward your right thigh. As you settle in here, notice where you might be able to soften a bit more if the hands are gripping. If any holding in your leg, your hips. Another full round of breath where you are. And then we'll start to press the floor away, rocking yourself up, backing the bones of your spine. Take a pause once you that upright position. And we're going to stay with the same legs. Just rotate the torso maybe about 45 degrees and take your forearm inside of this right thigh, right knee. So applying a little bit of pressure here to revolve your torso, your chest to the left. And then sweep this left arm up and over, taking a nice lateral stretch here. You might get to a point where you can kind of rest on that elbow once again. This won't be as long of a hold since we are holding ourselves in place here. There's more engagement happening. So just feel that nice opening. Breathe into the left side body, left ribs. Soften that shoulder, left shoulder. Couple more breaths here. Releasing. Take the right hand behind your tailbone. I can't really see where my hand is going here, but flatten that palm and lift your left arm up to counter this. So you can keep your hips on the floor or press into your left shin to lift the hips up into the back bend here. Watch your right wrist, right elbow, and coming down. Just a brief little counter to what we just did. And then we'll switch our sides. Bending this right knee in, stretching the left leg out. That should feel pretty good here. With any motion along the way, either leg. And we'll set up the same pose on the other side. Right heel into your hip crease. Knees supported by this blanket or towel, whatever you've got. Rotating your navel toward the left leg, flex your toes. Take a breath or two here. And then on an exhalation, start to walk forward, leading with your chest, coming down with the elbows. Still keeping that orientation of the torso toward your thigh. This starts to open in a very different stretch. Another breath here with everything active. Length at the crown of your head. And then exhale, soften your leg. Soften your forehead toward your leg. Rounding the spine, releasing your neck. Couple more breaths where you're at. And then start to walk those hands back. Releasing your spine upright. Experiencing the release. Taking a couple breaths there. Rotating just in the torso. There might be a slight little adjustment to your legs, not too much. This time our left arm leverages inside the thigh, the knee. Right arm sweeps up and over. Finding that nice lateral stretch. Shining the heart over to the right. You can almost think of rotating your heart up toward the ceiling. It probably won't come parallel to the ceiling, so I'm not worrying about that, but revolving everything open here. Just a couple more breaths here. And we'll lift it up with a breath in. We'll find that counter stretch. Hand planting behind you, lifting, pressing the right shin into the mat if you're lifting the hips, lifting the left arm up high. I think I might have cued this backwards on the other side. So if you were doing it that way with me and it felt really awkward, I apologize. It felt awkward in my body. I was like, why? This usually feels good. I apologize. All right, so our hips are down. We'll scoot our blanket over to the side, or actually you might want it on your mat here. We're coming to our hands and our knees. So I would like to place this blanket here, protecting those knee joints. Never a bad thing. Actually, give yourself a little room to travel in front of you. And lots of work in those hamstrings, hip joints. So go ahead and circle out. Maybe you find some swaying side to side here. Maybe there's a cat and cow in there. Let these movements feel good in your body. And then from here, we'll move into our melting heart pose, keeping those hips over the knees. You might have a pillow or block available toward the top of your mat, just in case, or within arm's reach. Start to walk the hands forward. And when they start to reach their max point without moving the hips forward, keeping the tailbone lifting, soften the forearms down, soften the forehead down. And this is where a pillow could come under your forehead, a block. We're opening up our shoulders, compression in the spine. If it's a lot in the shoulders, you can bow those elbows out. You can take as much of a bend as you need. The straighter the arms are, the more sensation you'll feel in the shoulder joints. Notice if you're holding in the legs. Find some ease. Let that ease travel up to your hips, your low back. Your heart space is sinking low to the mat. If you feel like you need a little bit more space to sink in, your chin might come to the mat versus your forehead. It does add a level of intensity, so just see what happens if you're trying that out. If it's not for you, don't be afraid to come back. When the sensation gets big, see what you can do with the breathing. Just a little more. Another deep breath. And as you let that breath go, find some bend to your elbows to release your shoulders. Carefully make your way out. We'll make our way back to a child's pose to release. Hips going back toward the heels. Let your arms come by your sides. Your shoulders can just melt forward. Let it all go right here. You can stay where you are in child's pose. Or if you'd like to move into rabbit pose with your hands still toward the back of your mat, grab onto your heels, physically grab those heels. Back the chin, weight and crown of the head comes to the mat, and hips lift up until the arms straighten. Big, round, rabbit spine. We're engaging one of our main blocks here, the Jalandhara Bandha, the chin lock. The breath feels very unique here. If it feels panicky at all, just release the pose. Just take a couple more. release that low bunny rabbit. Come on up. Stacking your shoulders over your hips here. Pause for a moment. And our next place we'll set up for here, our pigeon pose, this swan in our yin practice. And if you know that you might want to take it on your back, you need that option before we even set up for our more traditional shape here. So from the hands and the knees, letting the right knee forward. I've scooted my blanket aside to the right. And my heel ends up pretty angled in a yin practice in this pose, lengthening out that left leg behind. Another alternative for something gentler on the knees is bending this back leg, making more of a deer shape. So that's another place we can go. And with this blanket, you can go under the right hip if there's some space there, just to give the body some support. We'll take at least a couple breaths upright. And as you're upright here, think of shifting the right hip back, left hip slightly forward here, lengthening. You might even press into the top of your left foot as you do that. Just finding that levelness in the pelvis and trying not to release onto that right hip, keeping some lift there. It's another good reason for that blanket, that prop, that we can support and have that lift without using a lot of engagement. So as you're ready, you can start to walk forward. You might grab your pillow for under the sternum, under the forehead, or maybe both if it's big enough. These last rounds of breath, just notice where you might be able to release and soften just a bit more. Letting go. Take another inhale. Take your exhale. And start to carefully rise up through your torso. And as we let this go, we'll ease onto the right side to bend the back leg in. So we'll come for that deer. So making a Z shape. If you are sitting on your blanket, you can scoot it out of the way. And then let's take a twist over to the right. We won't be here for too long, just countering this with a twist. Feeling that release in the right hip. Taking another breath here. And quick little trip over to the left. Hang on to your left ankle. Counter twist for the counter pose. And we'll release this to hands and knees. He was in the backyard. I just looked up and saw his little face. And blanket can scoot over to the left side. Sliding the left knee forward. We're coming into that pigeon. Finding your way in. Setting up that support system. A little different from one side to the other. Sitting up nice and tall. Your left hip is ever so slightly pulling back as the right hip pulls forward. Top of the right foot anchoring. And you might even peek over your right shoulder, seeing that that heel is in line with your hip. Staying upright as long as you need. And we'll take it into our fold. And it's okay if you're on your back for one side of this, if one of your knees is calling for that. Just know that you can take two different variations on your two individual sides. Finding the right balance for ourselves on the mat is a practice by practice check-in. It's going to be a little bit different every time we visit our yoga mat. Knowing that sometimes we might have less energy, we might be tight, we might have a different set of circumstances going on for ourselves. What if we approached everything in life as gentleness and kindness towards ourselves, knowing that we're a little bit different human every day. Doing things the same way all the time, not serving us. Being open. Last handful of breaths here. And only as you're ready, put your eyes up. Be nice and slowly. Easing onto that left hip to slide the right leg in. Both knees bent. Like it can scoot out of the way and then take that twist over to your left side. And we'll turn over toward that right shin. And once you are set, bring your legs out in front of you. Let's take a little windshield wipe of the knees, side to side. Let both of those hips go. Keep your blanket and or your pillow handy. We'll lie down on the back. We'll hug the knees in. We'll give you all a few moments. There's something here, something extra that you would like. We often think about moderation in terms of doing less or doing something less, but sometimes getting to that middle point means we need something else. We need to do more. So if you need something else I didn't give you, please take the time to do that. And then for our last ever important Shavasana, I'm going to employ my props here again. I'm going to take the same pillow bolster with a blanket draped over it, but have it lengthwise behind the spine. The pillow or even just the rolled blanket with two just. And what this will do, it'll lift the heart. Shoulder blades can wrap around that prop. Your legs could go to a butterfly. They might just straighten out. You might be bent with your feet flat on the ground. Take a few moments as you're settling here, just acknowledging everything you've done here on your mat. Oftentimes, just getting here is the most challenging thing that we do, making this time for ourselves. Women, we have a lot of roles that we play, a lot of directions we're pulled. Taking this time for yourself, striking that balance. The beautiful thing, give yourself some gratitude. Take that little pat on the and allow yourself to rest here. And let your breath deepen. Only when you're ready, start to bring back movement. Make your way onto the left side of your body, easing into a fetal position, pausing there for just a couple of moments. Carefully coming off of your props if you're still on those. And we'll meet in a seated position only when you're ready. Just taking your time, finding that nice tall spine, nice open chest, open heart. And we'll bring the hands right into the heart center, bowing the chin into the chest. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for this practice of yin and this practice of Bramacharya. It is my pleasure, my honor to guide you. And as we bow to each other for sharing this practice tonight, we say together, Namaste. Thank you, ladies, so much.